All right, so we're continuing on the topic of down rounds today. In the previous videos, I gave you kind of an overview of down rounds and why they might happen, why they might be happening more. In your experience, I've also told you the step one to figuring out what to do in a down round is figure out if it actually is a down round and has any adjustments. And then, step two here is to talk a little bit about the mechanics of a down round. So what actually happens under your corporate documents most of the time when you're doing a down round? And the answer is most certificates of incorporation for Series A deals and above have what are called anti-dilution provisions. Now, we've talked about anti-dilution provisions in other topics and other contexts, but an anti-dilution provision basically effectively gives an investor or current stockholder more shares in future rounds or at the time of exit, really, if you've done a down round. So what does that mean? That means once you've decided whether or not this is actually a down round and it's an effective issuance at a price per share less than your prior price per share rounds, then you see what formula applies in the certificate of incorporation. And usually there is what's called a broad-based weighted average formula. And what this formula does is it recalculates the number of shares that are owed to an investor upon conversion of their preferred stock to common stock. So let's break that down because it's probably pretty complicated if you've never thought about this. So preferred stock investors, they're going to be the ones that have what are called anti-dilution protection if they negotiated it in your prior priced round. Who is likely to have that? People who are in the Series A and after are likely to have that in price rounds. Series C documents generally do not have price-based anti-dilution protections, but they might, and it depends on what you use in your first round, so you got to be more careful. Common stockholders, founders, generally do not have anti-dilution provisions that would effectively give them more shares as a result of the down round. So what does that mean as a practical matter? That means when you do a down round, the effective more shares that you're giving someone at conversion upon exit, the investors, they're kind of made whole. They're not made fully whole. That would be what's called a full ratchet anti-dilution protection, and that's really rare. Most of the time, these are in fact broad-based weighted average, which kind of gets them more shares as if they would have been there had you priced their round differently, but it doesn't quite get them all the way there, okay? So that also means as a practical matter, when you do a down round, it's especially dilutive to the common stockholders, generally the founders and service providers. So that's the first thing to think about is the mechanics of this are an equation that kicks into place when the preferred stock would convert. If the preferred stock never really converts, then it will not generally have an effect on the amount of shares that they have. It's a as converted to common basis. So what it does is it adjusts the conversion price in the COI. So there's an original issue price and then there's a conversion price. And the COI basically says preferred stock goes into common stock to get upside in the deal on a one-to-one basis unless there's an adjustment to the conversion price. There's an adjustment to the conversion price when a company does a down round. So it goes from a one-to-one conversion ratio to a one to more than one share conversion ratio is essentially what happens. So those are the mechanics. The high level understanding that you need to have is if the company recovers from this problem and the investors end up converting to common stock at the exit, then they're going to get more than one share preferred for each share preferred they had on that as converted basis, okay? So it ends up coming out of the founder's hide. The idea behind this is that whatever the problems the company was facing are more than likely not related to the founders and what they did or didn't do, maybe market conditions, and maybe it's just a risk adjustment mechanism. But one way or another, the real implicit idea behind this is that the extra dilution is not coming from the existing investors who have these protections. They're coming from the founders who don't have these protections. So those are the mechanics. Again, it's not like the investor on the day of the down round is getting physically new shares and you're canceling the old ones and giving them more shares. It's a conversion price adjustment mechanism that kicks in upon conversion of the common stock, or affecting any liquidation provision that says when they're treated on an as converted to common basis. Okay, those are the high-level mechanics. It's complicated. You've got to do the spreadsheets to model out a down round, and you've got to work with people that have been through down rounds before to really understand how these work and make sure that they're done properly. There are also new things, new paperwork you need to give people and record in the company's capital management system, or cap table systems or whatever, and document management systems. So those certificates need to be drafted by an attorney who knows what he or she is doing. And those are the main issues about the mechanics of these things. If you like this content, we hope that you subscribe. We hope that you like it. We hope that you comment. And of course, if you have any questions or observations to make, we welcome them. Take it easy. Hope you can deal with your down round if it's happening. And if you have questions, hopefully you know where to reach out. Thanks.